We're part of God's game, we know that. But when you kind of distinct the two, put a little separation in there. Okay? All right, moving along very quickly. Next slide just has one little thing on it. Music ministry is not the right of the talented, but the privilege extended to the committed. Committed, being engaged. See how this is all tying together? Okay? All right, you can go to the next slide. We're almost done here with this section of it. Continue on in our role. There is no room for, I'm just going to go through this real quick. There is no room for envy and strife. There is no room for ego. Put on the full armor of God. Put God first. Jesus said, feed my sheep, not feed my ego. See, when we allow ego, I got this free from somebody that's in this room. Right, John? This was one of those free mentoring phone calls I got one day. But this was a very powerful statement. We have one of our drummers from Morgan Hill in here today. This was a profound statement he made. When we allow ego, we're exiting God out. Very profound statement. I got that free of charge, man. That was cool. Ego gets in the way of what God wants for you. Make sense? How many of you have been in the workplace and there's somebody that has the ego thing going? Maybe it's a manager. Cedric's looking at me like, hey, you told me about your boss just the other day. Okay. There may be weeks where maybe you're used or you're not used, but that's okay. In Morgan Hill, part of our campus is to raise up other people, because we're growing other campuses here at Cathedral of Faith. We're going to be growing to 20 campuses. Right now we're at what, 10? 9 total? Something like that?
7.
7? Okay. See, I'm thinking ahead, moving forward, that Pastor Ken message. We're going to eventually have 20. So we got to train people up. That's part of the reason why we're doing these workshops, okay? Is for that very reason. And part of our campus, because we were the first campus, we'll be 4 years old this Easter Sunday this year in a couple weeks, is to raise up other people. We had one drummer already. He went to one campus and now he's at another campus. We're down with the drummer who's playing here today, Donovan. He's coming here and helping the main campus. He may be, you know, but we've had people, John, one of our other drummers who's here today also. When East San Jose opened up, he went over there for, what, 2-3 weeks, something like that, to help start that up. That's what our purpose is in our campus, is to raise up others. One of our singers, they're asking to come and do this and do that. Eventually, they're going to probably, well, I know for a fact they're a husband and wife. She sings on our team. They're eventually going to be, she's going to be worship leader one of our other campuses. But see, that's what our campus is designed to do. Raise others up, and release them. Okay. But again, they're fully engaged. Each one of you is a leader in your role. And your role is to continue to grow yourself and also others around you. Okay? And I can go on, but I want to get into the effects thing here today. But bottom line, you see down there in bold, prepare your craft. And that's what we're going to move into. And we're going to show you and illustrate how I've prepared some of the craft and how you already saw a little bit of it just on one song. One other quick thing, don't be late. Because when you're late, you're making a statement that your time is more valuable than others. Now, obviously, there's exceptions to that. You get a flat tire. You got to stay late at work. I don't have problems with things like that. Okay? Those things are going to happen. An emergency comes up at home with one of your kids, wife, family. I never have a problem with that. Just communicate to your leader. Hey, car broke down. I'm going to be a half hour late. That's all. Okay?
There's only one thing worse than being late. Is you're late and you're walking with like a Starbucks.
Oh. Yeah, you walk in with the Starbucks, yes.
Or like a Jamba Juice.
Yeah. Okay, we're almost done. I got one more slide, and then we're going to get into this. I wrote this a long time ago after my first trip to the Philippines. I call this the L. You may want to take a note of it. And if anybody wants this, I know there was a sign-up sheet. Did it ask for?
Shoot it out.
Okay, yeah. We can get this PowerPoint to you. Okay? Real quick. The L. I refer to the L, as you see here, up at the top. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay? Down where the line comes together, that's us, the worship team. And then over to the right, you see people, congregation. Okay? Now, of course, we're part of the congregation, but we've been blessed with the gifting of playing music, singing, whatever. Okay? Then you see the arrow going to that straight line. Unity, one accord, worship team and congregation become one. Taking the people in the congregation into the throne room of God. This is where healing takes place, mending of broken hearts, transformation takes place, restoring takes place, so on and so forth. Very, very, very vital. Right there, all in the blue. That's why we do what we do. That's why preparing your craft, not overplaying, is so important. Okay? And then our very last slide is kind of the theme that we've been talking about all this afternoon. To, again, remember our goal and focus. You can go to the final slide. It says we exist and are the vessels to set the platform to create an environment in order for the people to encounter the physical presence of Jesus. That's why we do what we do. Okay? Okay. So now that we have the schooling part out of the way, you guys ready to hear some effects and how you use them? Okay, cool. All right, that makes sense. Any questions on that part right there? How are we on time?
Yeah, we have another half an hour.
Okay,
And,
okay.
And also, like, call time is 3:30 today.
Oh, call time is 3:30? Okay, all right. I'm going to try to stick to our 3 o'clock, so maybe if you can give me a 5-minute thing, so because I know it's Saturday and we probably still have a lot of stuff to do at home. So I really appreciate you guys coming out. You enjoying this so far? Is this making sense so far? All right, good. See, there's always one clown in the band all the time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. We're doing everything in slow motion. How about that one? Oh. 2020. This is my favorite movie.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah?
Yep.
I used to watch it every night.
Really?
Okay, so we're going to kind of have a little fun here. We're going to go through a couple different things so I can show you how the different patches work and how you use your guitar and stuff like that, okay? And then we'll finish with any questions or anything. Okay, great questions and stuff already. Fabulous. Okay, so it's kind of funny. We're in a church setting and I'm doing a Michael Jackson groove, but that's okay. It's to illustrate a point. So you remember the little G thing?
Yeah.
All right. So I have 2 different clean patches. Turn that up slightly. There we go. Okay. This one here, again, I have a kind of a Fender guitar thing, but I've added to this to kind of give like that kind of jazzy little sound. But I'm on this patch. As you hear, it's kind of almost like a twin reverb. Hear that? Full on twin reverb sound, okay? Sounds just like a hollow body. He brings the real meal deal, so he gets to really sound like it on Sunday. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to take just this little groove, and I'm going to go through on that one patch and show you the different 6 or 7 different tones you can use on that. Then I have another clean patch, which sounds like this, but I changed the effect. Still the Fender twin reverb tone, but now, hear the difference? Thank you. There's your true twin reverb. That has like a hall, like delay type effect, but it's not rolling blah, blah, blah. Okay? Hear the difference in the tone? Okay? All right. So I'm going to do the twin reverb one first. And we're just going to do this little Billie Jean kind of groove here, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now this is the one that doesn't have the long reverb, but more of that kind of tight delay sound, okay? Totally different. So you can use this almost like a bluesy sound. Now I'll pop the button up. The tone difference. There's 12 different sounds. But see, and again, we're playing Michael Jackson's one, but still, like I said, I have a little 5-piece jazz group, and we do that stuff, and we do all the old jazz standards. I use a completely different setup for that. But sometimes, if we're doing, like we did a 50th wedding anniversary, and they wanted like a lot of the 50s, 60s rock and some of that stuff. So I brought this setup and used this because I have all these different tones. See, in the same song, you can have all those different sounds, okay? All right, so that's kind of how I utilize some clean, different type things, okay? Let's pull up Friend of God. And we'll have Cedric get on guitar in a minute. I'll show you when we get into, like, when you have another guitar player, okay? So here I'm going to show you a little bit of just some different distortion things I'll use and how I approach it. I'll use a lot of muffle, okay? Real quick, there's a couple, I kind of do this intro a little bit differently on this song. I like to kind of give it more of an edgy rock feel than Friend of God. So I can use kind of a clean type distortion, about 3 different ones rhythm-wise I'll use. I can use this one. Okay, that has a lot of reverb on that. Or if I want a little edgier, a little heavier on the distortion, I can go. A lot of times I'll use that more for me. That's real heavy, kind of almost more of a metalish, but it gives you a whole different feel to the song. Or this one, this is actually a Tommy Walker sound right here. A little brighter than the other, kind of cleaner. Not quite as much distortion as the first one is. That's his sound. He used it's that song, I'll Never Stop Believing. That's his exact tone, because he uses a Fender. Then I'll take his same tone, and I'll put a little delay on it. I love delay on lead. So it's the same tone as his rhythm one, but when he does a solo. But not real heavy on the distortion. So it's still clean, it's got a nice bite. So see again how I've edited and used different things, okay? So I'll show you how I would kind of use that for both to start like a rhythm, you know, the beginning of the song. We'll do the verse, we'll do the intro a little bit, and then into the verse, and I'll show you how you can kind of do a little line and change real quick, okay? All right, ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Keep going on that verse. So then say they're ready, they want you to do something. See the difference right there? Okay, different tone altogether between the rhythm, but I use the rhythm one as the lead. It just depends what you want to do on that given day. Okay, there, it's got a lot of reverb on it with a delay. Dot, dot. Now there's where you can get in on your effects. You can have that delay go dot, 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 dot. Kind of like this clean patch I use called Chimney. See how it carries on? Thank you. Okay, so see how I use different things, and I'm just tweaking different tones, so and so. song I've been referencing for tomorrow. This is the rooftops one. There you go. Well, distortion, but here it's almost more muffled, but that's the sound he has. Now, if I want, I can make it brighter. That's the exact tone. If I want a little brighter. And then I came up with this really crazy one, where I took a whole bunch of different things and kind of threw it in there. I call it stellar. But now this has like the swell patch. I threw distortion, delay, and the swell. It's almost like throwing everything plus the kitchen sink in. Here the delay goes a lot longer. So see, you can play around with delays and different things. I can take the same line, that's one way, or I can do the traditional way. Where did I put it? There it is. See the delay? No, cut a lot faster. Okay? Again, you got to play around with your stuff. And it's what you want. That's the traditional way. Tomorrow, your dad, I'll say, which way do you want it? Steph, do you want the kind of trippy one or you want the standard one? Okay? So see that? Okay? All right, so open the eyes. And this is the one where we'll put Cedric on guitar. And this is where I like to illustrate we have more than one guitar player. Now I took the song, I kind of tweaked it. You guys, most of you guys played this song, Open the Eyes of My Heart, right? Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Right, E, B, A, 3-chord song. I tweaked it, because I always like to try to trick the vocalist, but our vocalists, we just can't trick. They're really schooled. So I took it and got rid of the B and the B chord, and I just did like an E, D, kind of, because I made it a little more rocky. So there's a couple things you can do with your effects. Now in this case, we're going to have like an acoustic with an electric, okay? So this is kind of an acoustic-driven type song. So I'll have him kind of play that intro on the acoustic, and I'm going to show you some different things. And then this is how we talked about being engaged, how you do different things, not only with effects, but how you use slightly different chording, okay? Or how you put a lead line over what the rhythm guitar, if you have an acoustic guitar, is doing, okay? So first what I'm going to do, I'm going to mirror his acoustic line, but I'm going to have some distortion with a muffled thing, okay? Okay. There you go. So there's a little movement in the chord, okay? Then he goes down to the D chord. So now I'll mirror that with distortion. Hear that? All right, keep going. Now I'll do a line. let's go so you hear you do a little lead line with a different effect, or do the muffle. Now we're going to take an E major 7 over. Here we go with the song. Open the eyes of my heart, stand the E. Open the eyes of my heart, I want to see you. I want to see you. Verse again. Open the eyes of my heart. Open the eyes of my heart, I want to see you. I want to see you. All right, right there. So you see, I did a bunch of different stuff in there, mixing rhythm with lead, so on and so forth. Okay, muffle effect, different effect. You saw when I went from that kind of, which has reverb, but then I used the other one, that I actually went to the Tommy Walker lead one with the extended reverb, the delay. It totally changed the dynamic of that whole sound of the whole band, just on one patch. I like a lot of reverb and a lot of the delay and stuff like that, because it kind of sets a whole different ambience of what you're trying to do. Then the other quick thing, and I didn't really cover it, but and we're just doing this as an illustration. The other very, 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 very important thing is band dynamics. Very, very important. So many guitar players in bands, they just want to play. They want to play. No, you can kind of sit on the up front, like what we were just doing in the intro. Ooh, cool little riff. Actually, the way I wrote that one, there's three different. There's the acoustic part, then an electric doing, and then another electric doing. And actually, you have those three. So you have all these different harmonies going, and then I have a bass guitar solo that goes over top of it. I did that different intro for a bass solo up front. So, anyways, so it's just my little tweak on the song and the whole bit. But, anyways, band dynamics is very, very important. So, like when we get in, you start and the singer starts singing, you can keep that drive going like that, but man, bring it down. Bring your feet. You can still do that little muffle. You know, and with the multi-effects, they always have a volume. And one thing I've done is I've pretty much preset my volume. I run my volume about 50-55%. And again, I have a preamp, so I can push or pull back depending on what they've got as a soundboard. So if they need more push into it, I can just adjust that. But I always keep my volume pedal at 50. So then if I'm going to do a lead, and again, it depends on the type of sound person you have, where you're playing, so that if they don't really understand it, then I've got that room if I'm going to do a little solo. And again, this goes back to what we talked about earlier about listening. When they start singing, you should be able to hear your singers out of your house. You should be able to hear the singers out of your house. If you're hearing more of you than them, pull it back. See how that kind of ties to the we, not the me, right? Again, what are we trying to, what's our goal? To usher, that's right. So every little thing that we do here is very, very, very important, okay? All right, let's do, we're almost done here. Pull up, I Give You My Heart. So I'm going to pull up, this camera I use the clean, and I'll show you where I'll use a clean delay. Versus, and then on that little swell patch, I'll show you can use that on this. We'll start, we're going to take two little pieces of the song, a little intro. We'll just loop the intro, guys. Okay, at first we'll loop the intro. I'll show you how you can do some little line things with some effects. And then we'll get into the chorus and show you like a little groove thing with some different chords. One thing I have for you guys at the end, that's right where that little Pacquiao jacket is at the corner. You're probably going, well, that's pretty cool, some of this like lead stuff you're doing. How are you doing that? I have over there the list, it's 5 pages of the scales that I use. And then down below, every single key. So when you're looking at that scale, I'm going, oh, okay, I play that. So if I'm in the key of G, I can go, do, re, mi, fa, sol, right, the major scale, then there's the 2, and Gabe's going through this right now. What what he's learning. So I basically, minus the blues scale or pentatonic, as a lot of people know it, I only use 4 other scales. That's it. And how I've designed it is they're 2 frets apart, and whatever is on this side, when you scoot up 2 frets, now becomes these 2 fingers, so they all overlay. So I've got the scales, and every scale down below will tell you exactly what fret and what key that represents. So it's very easy. Okay? All right? All right, so let's do the intro to I Give You My Heart. So basically you can approach this just like a nice, clean, simple, kind of jazzy type sound. Okay, ready? 1, 2, intro. See how I've created 3 different ambiances right there? Alright, so now let's jump to the chorus and Lord, I give you my heart. Yeah, right there. So now you can stay in this nice little swell. In it, and you just let it ring right over. See, so all sorts of different things you can do. And another thing we kind of do down at Morgan Hill, we like to we're kind of a R&B gospel type groove down there. Yeah. So really punch that little kick. So we'll go. Lord, I give you my heart. I give you my soul. So if we're doing that kind of a groove, I'll usually use my jazz patch. Right there. That's just a G note to an E. I'll just keep going, guys. Now I'll kick that with them. And then you just do like chords. clean feel, the delay, you know, there might be a moment where all of a sudden, and each week's different. All of a sudden, man, you're seeing Mrs. Parsons in row 4, just on her knees, just tears flowing down. So you have to be sensitive of what's going on in the room. A lot of that's your worship leader's job, but remember, what did we talk about earlier? You're also a leader. You're part of that whole team, okay? So if you see stuff like that, or all of a sudden, man, you see people starting to come up maybe for an altar call, that's one of our, that's, what we call that, the Pastor Gary song. We play that song, at least twice a month? Sometimes almost every Sunday at the road. It's such a powerful song. Lord, I give you my heart. When I think about the words of that song, I give you my soul for you, right? Okay, so we use that a lot for an altar call. So if there's an altar call, you can kind of use that little distortion thing, but man, it's got to be like way, way, way back in the background. It's almost too overbearing. So I would use the clean kind of, and a lot of times and stuff like that, I let him do it. Because he has a lot of that kind of sound, and he plays it so sweet and so beautifully. And so I'll just kind of use one of my effects with the little delays and just arpeggiate like the swell effect or whatever, just to color it different and let him go. So again, it depends on what's happening at that moment in time. Okay, quickly, you guys know our God? Our God is greater. Okay. I'll just show them this and then we'll close out with a little Let It Rise real quick. We'll do a little bluesy thing at the end. That part has 2 guitar parts written for it. So a lot of times in your team, you might be the only guitar player. So I used, created this patch. So you know how it starts. Which pretty much is exactly how Chris Tomlin had it. Okay, we'll go to the verse right here. So I'm going to play both parts. See how I'm filling that whole room with that effect? It's just a clean thing with it's like a reverse gate and a really big room, not hall, but big room effect. Reverb. I couldn't think of the word. And that's the crux. And then as you get into that song, you go into distortion because it really starts driving. Again, that's where band dynamics comes in. Go back if you have that song. Listen to that song. Now we drive it a little bit. We kind of drive it pretty hard in Morgan Hill, huh? Yeah, it's because we get 2 electrics and we're dual distortion thing, and the whole. And again, that's where, like he said at rehearsal, what are you going to do? Okay, you just want to carry the rhythm. So I'll use maybe one of my lighter distortion things to differentiate his heavy rhythm part with a heavier distortion to color whatever around what he's doing. And then if he's playing. He's playing A here. I'm either going to be like. Totally different versus G. But there are times where you want, you know, like the old days, the Marshall Stacks line. Sometimes you want that effect where you're 2 guys doing the same thing. Depends on the song. All right, so last thing we're gonna do real quick, let's pull up Let It Rise. Now most guys know, right? Right? Okay, that's the traditional way. We don't do it that way more. We do a little bit differently. We have a lot of fun with this one. They're all laughing. You guys don't do anything like that. So this is where I'm gonna kind of use that kind of country, a couple different ways. I can use the jazz kind of, or I can go, I kind of like to use like the kind of bluesy country. Rise among us, let the glory of the Lord. Rise among us, let the praises of your King. Rise among us, let it rise. Let the songs of the Lord rise among us. Let the songs of the Lord rise among us. Let the joy of our King rise among us. Let it rise. Oh, let it rise. Oh, let it rise. See, you can change the dynamic of a song just with what you got right here. Yeah, we kind of do a blues, and then we all go around and drop the band and do solos, and it's fun. You gotta have fun doing the worship. You know, don't be afraid to cut loose every once in a while. That you'll be amazed how it starts. I mean, we're really seeing that in Morgan Hill, right, Donovan? Donovan's one of our drummers down there, along with John and everything, and Hitman. And see, the other thing too, it's a newer campus, so we're teaching them how to worship. We're teaching them how to praise and this and that. And sometimes, man, some of the coolest times, man, is when we're just we do a breakdown, and we got a percussionist down there. He just does his little thing, and all of a sudden, go Hitman, and they love it. But it's that moment where, you know, especially in praise and something like that, that's a fun stuff. But you know, it's like, you know, when you're gonna make eggs, or you can tell I'm really hungry. I've used a lot of food references today, haven't I? But you know, you peel away some of the layers of an onion, right? Okay. Sometimes they gotta let loose too, man. They gotta, you know, again, what are we talking about? You don't know what Susan or Ken or Frank or John or anybody. You don't know what the world has done to them over that last 5 minutes or over the course of the week or a month or whatever. Something at work going on, something, you know, between a husband and a wife. And sometimes, man, they just got to peel that away and be able to just bask in His glory. And it doesn't always have to be this really cool, mellow, like little kind of thing, you know, like I give you my heart. Yeah, that penetrates deep, don't get me wrong. But sometimes, too, you just got to let go and let God, right?
Amen.
And sometimes that's what we do. We let go and let go. We have fun. We have a lot of fun. Because you just want to peel away all that garbage and all that stuff and just bask in His glory and what it is, His greatness and His goodness and what it is He's going to do. Right? And again, it all comes back to, in this case, we're doing a guitar worship. What do you do with this? How do you really, really utilize this? How do you utilize whatever it is, whatever affects it? It doesn't have to be what I have. God's blessed me with all this stuff. John's blessed me with some stuff too. He has. I show up one day, he goes, hey, don't forget to close your trunk. And I'm like, how do you close the trunk? I walk out there and there's a guitar sitting in the car. I'm like, John. But it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. We'll wrap it up with this today. Okay? You may or may not be the worship leader, but you are a leader on the team, regardless.
That's right.
Even if you're just a human metronome like Donovan, he's a leader. He'll give input on, hey, why don't we try this? And this is kind of how we do our team down there. You know, somebody comes out, right, Donovan? Let's try it, right? Yeah. Especially your dad. He's always like, hey, I want this groove, and I want, right? Okay, well, let's try it, see if it works. He has input. We all have input because we're working together as one unit. Okay? Very important. The other thing on your team, build each other up. Very, very, very important. Build each other up. Because you're all there for the same one purpose. Okay? A third thing, which I've been on a lot of teams, and I have to say this is the most amazing team I've ever been associated with, and it's because of what God has done. Get to know each other's story, because we all have a testimony, right? Amen? Get to know everybody's testimony and everybody's story as a team. The enemy ain't going to break that wall down at all. We know each other's stories. We know the hurts and the pains we've been through in whatever it is. I'm not going to get into detail on that, but we know that. Right? We talked about that in Milpitas. Okay? Very, very, very important. Pray for each other. Be there for each other. Have accountability people. Okay? John's one of my accountability people. When I'm down, I call him. When he's down, he calls me. That's where I get all those things for free, when we call each other, like the ego thing. That's why they call him Reverend John, because he is Reverend. Mighty, mighty man of God. Mighty man of, every single one right here is a mighty man of God. Amen. Thank you guys for being here today. Amen. And I mean that, okay? Amen. I mean that. Every single one of you is a mighty man from God. That's right. There's a purpose why he gifted you with what it is you do. You know? Why he gifted you to be able to play guitar for his glory. Not for your glory, for his glory. Okay? Make sense? Okay, any questions or anything at all today? I know we kind of ran over a little bit. I apologize. And we get a little late start because of the accidents. Any questions at all? Make sense? Go ahead. Yeah.
You always follow the charts, or you improvise sometimes that you own creation?
That's a great question. Great question. We sometimes will. Let me take the guitar off here. Let me just put this down here. It's going to depend week to week, okay? We use the chart, the term I use is a guidepost, but the way we do worship in Morgan Hill, it's kind of free-flowing, okay? To where we have the chart, and there's no right or wrong. I want to make sure I make this very clear. There's no right or wrong. The difference between that, between our God, which is a chart, or, here's a song you guys probably all know, Here I Am in Worship, or that. Those are three basic charts. Band charts or your simple one-pager, okay? I really like, I read music and everything, so you can stick anything there, it doesn't matter, okay? What I like about this, or in some cases, I'll use a chart like this, okay? But I'll use it as I'll write it as a modular, especially like when I write horn parts. You want to be able to have the ability to free flow, if that's what the Spirit's moving and how the Spirit's moving that day. And again, it depends every service. You know, sometimes you've got certain announcements, certain things going on a given Sunday. You've got new beginners class, for instance, that has 10 people graduating out of it. So you got to scale back the worship a little. Every week's different, okay? We follow the chart sometimes right to a T. We don't veer from them. Other times, we're following the chart, and all of a sudden the Spirit moves, and you might repeat a chorus. Or you might go back to verse 1, right? Happens a lot, okay? So I hope that kind of answers the question. Sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. A campus is a little different than, say, the main campus. Sunday here, okay? And correct me if I speak out of turn here, because I don't want to, but you've got three services on a Sunday.
Oh, 3, yeah.
Yeah, and then you get the Spanish service after, okay? But you got 3 services. What's the break in between? Is it like 20, 30 minutes, something like that?
Depends how late the last one went out.
Yeah, okay, yeah, again, oh, okay. Yeah, but typically it's like a,
15, 20.
oh, okay, 15. So you're ushering in, first service you got a couple thousand people, and now you've got typically a 15, 20-minute turn time to get that many people out, and another 2,000, 3,000 or whatever coming in the door. You have television, right? Because they film it for TV. So here on a Sunday morning, it's a little bit different. So they'll kind of keep into a time frame because of all these other things. At a campus, it's different. Okay, Cedric's over in Santa Cruz, we're in Morgan Hill. A little bit different. We have a little more flexibility. Okay, sometimes we will follow the chart right to how it reads. Other times, no. You may all of a sudden go, oh, we want to stretch this. We want to, spirit's moving. You know, and again, a lot of that's dependent of the worship leader. But the key thing is to know if you're in, and this is the difference between this verse, chorus, bridge. I call this like a modular chart, very easy to follow. So if all of a sudden they give their little cue or you start hearing them sing the chorus, you know right where you're going to go. This here, and this goes back to notating your chart. If you have a chart, typically you only have the first couple words. Some charts don't have any of the words. So you got to notate where your verse is. So if they do decide to stretch it within a full rhythm chart, as in this case, you kind of know where they're going. Sometimes the chorus one time in the chart's different than when they do the chorus later. So you have to kind of really watch where you're going. So again, it depends on that particular Sunday and what's happening. So does that kind of answer the question for you? Okay, cool.
I have something I want to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks.
I think that for me, like, whatever context you are playing, whatever worship context, whether it's in a context where it's more free-flowing, in a context where it's more structured, where you have to follow the chart, either way, you want to learn the song. Okay, so, and the cool thing is that, like, you see, like, in a chart like this, Let It Rise, I mean, you got so much to read, so many different integral things, and you got, like, how many bars in this Our God chart. If you actually listen to the song, a lot of stuff, it really actually repeats. So what you want to do is that you want to learn the sections. Like, what is the verse like? You know, what is a pre-chorus like? What is a chorus like? So essentially, in a song, there's really only, at the most, like 4 different sections. There's a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and there's a bridge, right? Now, whatever context in, again, you want to learn the forms of the song, but then you got to at least take a look at what they're going to give you. Because if you're here on the Sunday morning, right, even though you've learned the forms of the song, you need to at least be able to relate all the forms onto the chart, because if the band director is going to say, go to bar 46 when we start on the F sharp minor, you don't know, okay, there's an F sharp minor here, so how do I read all that? You want to be able to understand that so that you can follow direction on the day of, right, when we're there at rehearsal. But at home, you want to learn the form of the song. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what you don't want to do is just show up to rehearsal and just rely on this. Because then all you'd be doing is just like reading a line after line after line after line, and then, like, you know, the next thing you know, like we're on a different song already, you know. So
no, that's a great point. Thank you, great. And again, it goes back to, like we talked about earlier, preparation and the whole bit, marking your chart. So thank you, great stuff. Any other questions? Okie dokie. Well, that wraps it up for today. So I thank you very much for coming out today. I hope this was helpful, beneficial, and in you know, wherever it is you're serving, and the whole bit. And like I said, I got the scales over there, the whole bit. If you guys want the PowerPoint, we can get that out to you. Okay, the whole 9 yards. So, anyways, thank you so much for coming out today. It was an honor and a pleasure to be here today. Be careful going home, might be raining out there again, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and upcoming week in the Lord. Thanks.